This is end table planning procedure step 7. We're assembling the end table. I've got the sides and the back. In the previous step, we marked where we need to cut the joints for the biscuits. And so we're going to go through the same process as we did with the D-ring when we joined them. And we're going to clamp things down, okay? We're going to line up the red line here with the line that's on the end of the board. Biscuit joiner is tight against the table. Make sure that it's still set for number 20 on the dial right here, and create that joint, create that cut. Same on the other end. Okay, and then do the same for the other side and back as well. All right, so I just finished cutting all the grooves in the sides and back. And now the next step is to cut the grooves in the legs that we marked before. Now this is going to be just a little bit different. I have this spacer that's going to sit on the table next to the leg, and then we're going to put the my biscuit joiner here on top of that, and that's going to space it so that we have the correct spacing, and that when we put this together it will fit in the middle versus off to the side. Okay, we need to go through the same process. Make sure we clamp this down. The leg needs to be clamped down tight. Okay, legs tight. And remember, we're putting it on the tapered edge. So you got to look for your X's that you marked on the tapered edge. That's what we're cutting into. And you'll be lining it up with that mark that's we made in the previous step. And then the spacer goes underneath. Everything's flat and tight, ready to go. Let's put it in this one. And then this leg does have it on both sides. Okay, so there's the joint on that leg. And now I need to do this other one as well. I've got to turn it around this other way. So I'll clamp it. So make sure it's got to be flat against the table. Put the spacer there, line it up. Okay. So now we have what I've marked as number 2 and number 3, those cuts. The other legs need to do the same thing too. Remember that there's 2 legs that have just one joint on them, and then there's the 2 legs that have the 2 joints on them. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll talk about assembling the whole table together. All right, so I finished cutting the grooves for all the other legs, and now we're ready to assemble. And what we're going to do is we're going to assemble it in 2 parts. We're going to assemble the 2 legs to one side, and then assemble the other 2 legs to the other side. And we're going to wait on the back until these are dry. It'll work out a lot better that way. Make sure that you get things ready before you start gluing, as we've talked about before. Get your clamp over here, okay? And we're actually going to put it down on top like this. But to twist this, I'm going to have this hanging off the edge of the table. So I want to be over here like this. I've got the clamp ready. I've got some biscuits here, glue ready to go, little cloth to wipe fingers off on. And it's the same process as we've done in the D-rings. We're going to put some glue down in one joint here, and put a biscuit, kind of run that biscuit down in there, Squeeze out some glue. And now make sure we mark these. This is number 6 and number 5. Make sure you have the same numbers. I've got number 6 and number 5 here. All right, so make sure that you're lining stuff up the way it needs to be lined up. Biscuit in that one right there. And then we're gonna fill in this and spread the glue around. So a little bit in the joint, and then on the end grain here, spread it around, cover that end grain all up. Make sure that there's a thin layer all the way over on that. And you've got the rabbet, make sure it's going down and on the inside. What's gonna be the inside. So put that in there. And you want the top edge to be flush. Okay. Tip this up and do this other end now. Again, make sure you spread it around. You're always going to get a little bit of glue squeeze out. That's what you want. That's what you need. Put that in there. And make sure everything's looking tight. Set it down. Now when you clamp this, you want to push down here. Make sure this is tight against the table so everything's even. Put the clamp on top right here. Pushing down and snug it up. Make sure that the top edges are still flush. You look good on this. If you need to make adjustments, loosen it up and make adjustments. You can use a rubber mallet to do that a little bit. That can help, like tapping on things. Okay, so I've got that snug. Got some glue squeezing out. Okay, I've got glue squeezing out here a little bit, there a little bit. That's good. Joints look nice and tight. Take a look at the clock. Remember, this has got to stay on for 30 minutes. So in my case, it's 12:15. You may want to write down what time it is. 12:15. So I know I can take that off at 12:45. Okay, so there's one. We'll do the same thing, and I'll show you this one again. Okay, so I've got numbers 2 and numbers 1. So there's 2, there's 1. Looks like 2 needs to be on this side, 1 needs to be over here. Line stuff up, same process. Glue in your joint, and I just messed up. That was joint number 3, so I'm going to clean that out a little bit. Didn't pay attention close enough. But that's okay, I can get it out of there. Now we'll do number 2, sorry about that. But now you see what you do when you make a mistake. You fix it. Biscuits down in. 2 and 2. Don't skip this step. Spread that glue around so it sticks good. Okay. Should be good there. Got a little glue on a wipe up so we don't get it on my boards. Just a thin layer. Same thing. Make sure we're down tight. Looks good. Set it down. And the clamp's ready to go right here. Okay. Need to adjust just a little bit on both ends here. go. Remember, down tight. Make sure it's nice and tight against the table. Snug it up until you get some squeeze out. Check your joints. Now this one, it's kind of twisting on me a little bit, so I may want to get another clamp and try to pull it back because there's a little bit of a twist there. Or just adjust this clamp. I may need to just push this, loosen this up and bring this down in where it's pushing on more evenly. There we go. See, that fixed it. Now that joint's nice and tight across there. So take a look at your joints. You got to make adjustments, and we're in good shape. Same thing, I've got just after 12:45 to it's about 12:20, we'll call it here. So 12:50, I can take those off, and then we'll be ready to do the last step of assembling the table. It's been long enough that I can now scrape the glue and get rid of it. Just kind of scrape it with the chisel, and should peel off pretty easily. It won't leave as much of a mark in the wood that's hard to sand out if you do this way. And it just takes a little bit of patience here. Okay, we will have to do sanding on it still, but just that hardened glue just comes off a lot easier than trying to wipe it when it's really wet. And just kind of get rid of it this way. It's a good little trick to use to save you some heartache later on when you're trying to sand and get this cleaned up. So now we're ready to take and glue the back into these two spots. I've scraped the glue off. These are nice and dry. It's been 30 minutes. So now we got the back ready to go. Number 4, number 4, number 3. So it's gonna go just like this. Okay, stand it up. It's gonna go like that. Making sure that your rabbet is on the same side. It's just the same process here. We're gonna do a little gluing with the biscuits here. Get them ready and into the grooves. Biscuits in each one. And then again gluing into the end grain on the back here, spreading it around. Do the other side, kind of work quickly so you don't have glue dripping all over and starting to dry up on you. All right, set it into the biscuit and the other biscuit, and then making sure that it's down tight against the table, both parts, all the parts, nice and tight. And then we're going to clamp it just like we did the other ones, but this time I'm going to use a couple clamps. I'm going to come to the edge of the table here. Okay. Slide that in. Okay, hold everything down tight. Looking good. Slowly tighten it up. And then the other clamp, I'm going to go on this other side, try to equalize pressure just a little bit. And that way we got pressure in both sides. Just snug it up. Don't have to go real tight. Don't want to go real tight to push these in or anything. But same thing, it needs to sit for 30 minutes. After 10 to 15 minutes, do the best you can to scrape off the glue that you can get to.